Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to my Daily News X, your daily dose of news made very simple, real, and straight to the point. Well, I'm your host, Kramer, and in today's episode dives into a mix of pressing issues hitting today millions of Americans right now as we speak. From food benefits being cut to government shutdown chaos and the growing strain across our airports and food banks. So, do me a favor and grab yourself a cup of coffee because this one, believe it or not, it really matters. So I want to start with the SNAP benefit crisis because the government food assistance program that helps over 42 million Americans to put meals on the table is making a few changes and adjustments. Yes, believe it or not. With the federal government shutdown now entering its fifth week, by the way, the Trump administration has announced a contingency plan for about $4.65 billion allocated, but here's the catch, guys. That's only enough to cover about 50% of SNAP benefits for November alone. All right, so I want you to hear very clearly for this. That means families who normally receive $400 in monthly food aid would only get half, $200. And that is if they're already enrolled in the program. So here's where things get even tougher. And this is for new applicants, by the way. Anyone trying to apply for SNAP benefits this month will not receive, I repeat, will not receive any benefits until full funding and the government is restored. Meaning things are going back to normal, the shutdown is over, and the contract has been signed. The USDA says that the system just doesn't have the funds to process or pay out new cases right now. This move is historic and not in a good way. We've never seen a SNAP cuts this deeply during a prolonged shutdown, believe it or not. So the big question is, where do things stand now? Well, we're now in week 5 of the federal government shutdown, the longest in U.S. history, by the way. Hundreds of thousands of federal employees either are furloughed off or still working without pay. Essential programs are slowing down. For example, IRS, national parks, and even parts of the Department of Agriculture are struggling to operate and conduct business, regular business. This week, Senate leaders are saying they're optimistic. Yes, that's their word, right? That a new funding agreement could be reached very soon. But right now, there's still no final deal on the table. That's what's happening. Republicans and Democratic negotiators are blaming each other for the delay. While the American people, especially those relying on programs like SNAP benefits, are the ones who are feeling the impact every single day. All right, so I want to talk about air traffic controllers because there's a crisis right now around national airports like Dallas, Seattle, New York, even Miami and Atlanta, one of the biggest airports. If you've been flying lately, you probably felt the ripple effects of the shutdown too. Tens of airplanes, just waiting online just to depart. So air traffic controllers, the people who keep our skies safe, are among the many federal workers going unpaid. Reports show that some are calling in sick or even leaving the workforce altogether due to stress and burnout. That's leading to longer delays, slower airport operations, and yes, the real safety concerns. The FAA is trying to reassure the public that flights are safe, but aviation experts warn that the fatigue and low staffing levels increase the risk of errors in the skies. So that's what's happening. If you're planning to travel this week, my friend, please be a little more patient and maybe bring extra 1 or 2 snacks just to make sure you're good with your stomach. You have enough to fulfill your stomach. Now let's talk about what's going on the ground because it's concerning as well. Across the country, food banks and hunger relief organizations are sounding the alarm. With only half of SNAP benefits being paid and new applications frozen, demand for food assistance is expected to skyrocket. Places like Feeding America and local community food pantries are already reporting shortages, and they're calling on the public for donations and volunteers. Think about this, just to get a better idea. A family missing half their food benefits might turn to a food bank just to fill the gap. But those shelves can only stay full for so long. They're not forever. Experts say that if the shutdown doesn't end soon, we could see localized food shortages and overwhelmed charity network by the end of November. It's not just about hunger. It's about stability. Food insecurity affects children's learning, health, and even local economies. So the big question is, what is next after all this? Well, Senate leaders are meeting again midweek to push for a short-term funding bill that could reopen key agencies and restore full SNAP funding, at least temporarily until they get things figured out in the Senate, pass it to the Congress, final approval by the president, and things get rolling. But for now, we cannot rely on this. But even if they do reach a deal, experts say it could take weeks to get all federal programs running at full speed again. Meanwhile, the FAA continues to manage air traffic under tight staffing conditions, and food banks are racing to prepare for what could be one of the most difficult holiday seasons in recent history. Yes, that's what is coming. So, where does that leave us, the American people who depend on benefits? 42 million people depend on food benefits, and the normal traveler that likes to take a airplane, head to vacation or business or just to his house. Well, right now, the United States is facing a perfect storm, believe it or not. A government shutdown, food aid cuts, workers' burnout, and rising anxiety across communities. But remember, crises like this also reveal how strong we can be when we pull together. Check in your neighbors, donate if you can, and stay informed is the best thing you can do. Because whether it is policy decisions in Washington or the people on the ground, at the end, we are all connected. All right, that's it for today, guys, on my episode of my Daily News X. If you found this update helpful, share it with a friend or coworker, family member, or your neighbor, and join me again tomorrow for more stories that matter to you. Until then, stay safe, stay aware, and take care of one another. Thank you for coming, and have yourself a great day.